I'd now like to reintroduce Jessica Moore-Jones, who's going to talk about why humans are the key to animal welfare. Thank you, Jessica.
Hello again. For those that weren't here yesterday, very quick recap. Yesterday we talked about the kind of theory behind human behaviour change and how to do human behaviour change in what I would call the proper way, which is adapting values, beliefs, attitudes, and eventually getting some behaviour change. The short version of who I am is that I'm an animal person who likes people, which makes me a little bit unusual. But today we're going to talk about the shortcut option, okay? This is about doing behaviour change in a way that's not values, attitudes, and beliefs. This is quick decision making. Remember we talked about systems 2, systems 1. What do you think through and what do you just do on a bit of reflex? So that brings us to behavioural economics. Behavioural economics is the study of economics where economists the world over for centuries have said that this is the way that the world should work, based on models and graphs, and this is what's happening, and this is what people will do in this situation. Now, the truth is, humans aren't computers, okay? Economics assumes we all know the right information, we have equal opportunities to access all of the information, we make unemotional decisions. Yeah, right. We're not computers, okay? So psychologists came into this industry and went, hang on, let's make models that actually reflect how people do work, not how we wish they did. So you end up with the study of behavioural economics, okay? So Richard Thaler, the author of Nudge, has a Nobel Prize in behavioural economics. He wrote this book. It's a really nice, fun read. It's quite lighthearted. It's kind of the stuff we're going to talk about today, about how to get people to do what you want them to do without taking away their free will. No incentives, no punishments, education pretty lacking in this space. It's about how do you nudge them. Now, what is a nudge? You've got 4 options when you want people to change. You've got a shove, you've got a kick, you got a hug, or you got a nudge. So, who's flown Air New Zealand? Like Air New Zealand? We like Air New Zealand. I'm a New Zealander, obviously. I love Air New Zealand. They have a safety video. We have to watch it. It's law. You've got options on how you can make people watch a safety video. You can kick them. So, I saw that you weren't watching the safety video. You don't get a life jacket. You can hug them. I saw you were watching the safety video. Here's an extra sweet. You can shove them, have some sort of electromagnetic pulse that turns off all of their devices and sort of forces them to sit forward watching the screen. Or you can nudge them. You make it fun to watch. You don't take away their free will. You don't change anything about it. You don't incentivize. You just make the choice you want them to make more interesting a choice. You make it a fun video. Okay, so most of the stuff we're going to talk about is a little bit about how do we nudge people in the direction. Now, nudging is not a new thing, it's not rare, and it's not just used on you every day in the marketing world, which it is, I promise. But also, governments around the world have got nudge units. The USA, the UK, Germany, they have what they call their nudge units, which is, usually got a fancier name than that, but everybody knows it's a nudge unit, where they decide how do we make policy that gets people to do what we want them to do without them really knowing that's what we're doing. It's fantastic. So, potatoes. My favourite food, personally, okay? What do potatoes have to do with this? Right, so, in the mid-1700s, there was this dude in Prussia. He was called King Frederick the Great. I'm not making that up. True story, true person, okay? Now, famine was coming to Europe, okay? People were about to starve. Everybody knew this. And Europe was very, very much based on grains, okay? And there was this new vegetable from South America, the potato. And the potato was more hardy, more resilient, and grew in more diverse locations. And King Frederick the Great decided he needed his people to eat potatoes. So what did he do? He handed out bunches of potatoes, he put edicts in place, he forced people, thou shalt grow potatoes to a certain percentage of your crops. Guess what? Nobody did it. In fact, there's this very famous letter came back from a mayor of a local town that said they taste so bland we can't even make the dogs eat them. Oh, they had not discovered fries yet. So he sits with his advisors and everybody sits down and goes, well, how are we going to do this? Well, all the peasants are going to die, and then who's going to bring me cake? And so they decided, they set up the king's personal palace backyard, whatever it is, gardens. They put big walls around them. They put guards to guard them. And they just happened to tell the guards that it's probably okay if you fall asleep occasionally on duty. Take a really long lunch break and leave the gate open. And they made this secret crop in the back of the castle, heavily guarded. Ooh, what's in there? What's in there must be highly valuable. The king must, prize that. What do you know? People start stealing it in the middle of the night. What are they growing? Potatoes. So, within 15 years, potato is the most widely grown crop in Prussia, after 30 years of trying everything else to make it happen. Scarcity. Making something a valuable resource makes people want it. Diamonds. We were talking last night about diamonds. There are gazillions of diamonds in the world. Gazillions. They just keep them all in underground bunkers in some places in America. Because if they put them all on the market, diamonds would be worth nothing because everyone could have one. As it is, we all pay thousands and thousands of dollars for our engagement rings because they're rare and unique. Create scarcity. Now, animal welfare example, there's a shelter. I'm going to try to pronounce the name. It's, Territorio Deseguates in Costa Rica. Please forgive me, linguistically challenged. And they had a campaign and they went, right, we're going to stop selling these dogs as, oh, poor me, nobody loves me, I'm just a mongrel. And they went, we have a pointy-eared, fire-tailed Chewbacca mutt. And we have a, bright-eyed Australian picking dog. And they started using words like never seen before breed and only available in Costa Rica. And there's only one. Get yours before you missed out. Now, guess what? Not only did they get all over television because it was a fantastic campaign, their adoption numbers went up. Now, listen to this. I'm not making this up. Their adoption numbers went up 1,800%. Can you even imagine that number? It's not even a real number. I'm sure that's a misprint. But as they put it, 1,800% increase in adoptions because they made something a commodity that nobody else has, and it's scarce, and I want it, and it's unique. Now, there are times when the, oh, why does nobody love me campaign works. But do not overuse that because we devalue all rescue animals by default. So starting to talk about these animals as things that no one else has, you have this opportunity for a do not miss out. Start thinking about it. Now, what about when there isn't scarcity? This campaign becomes overdone in a year. Start creating scarcity where there isn't any. So, I do agree with Kirsten's point about there should be nowhere off access in your shelter. But what you put on display as adoptable animals, you need to be careful. If you have 6 brindle staffies, people can't choose. Not only are all of those staffies kind of the same in their head, they just get indecision mush and they can't make a choice. So when you set up your adoption kennels, hold some back of house. Have 1 Kelpie, 1 brindle staffy, 1 lab cross, 1 bull Arab cross, a couple of little dogs if you got them, if you're lucky. Now, if somebody comes in and is like, oh, it's a male bull Arab, I really wanted a female. Oh, look what I've got out the back. That's fine. You can adopt those dogs. But when you put their options in front of them, scarcity is valuable. Now, if that's not possible for you, that's a hard one to get past some of your staff. It does take some change management. Then stories. Stories is your next way to create scarcity. There's this fantastic example in the US, borderline unethical, but I love the example anyway. Scarlett. Anybody see the news clip of Scarlett who ran back into a burning building to save her kittens one by one? Fantastic story. Somebody's got this on camera. Scarlett, the stray cat, goes back again, brings out a kitten, goes back again, brings out another kitten. Amazing stuff, like the publicity you die for. Shelter took these kittens. Shelter adopted 200 of Scarlett's kittens the next weekend. Scarcity can be created even when there isn't any. So think about this. Either this and one I'll talk about at the end is probably the single most valuable heuristic available to you. Use it wherever you can. Framing. Now, who would eat a 20% fat yogurt? Who would eat an 80% fat-free yogurt? We all do on a daily basis. They're the same yogurt. So when you're choosing, know that marketing companies are doing this to you all the time. How you frame information matters. RSPCA Darwin, where as the CEO most recently, we had a live release rate of 97%. Tell people we kill 3% of our animals? Sounds really awful, doesn't it? How you frame things matters. Really important thing to think about. If you want something to sound higher, use numbers. If you want something to sound lower, use percentages. So, apologies to Holly, I think she's stepped out. 35,000 animals desexed in Spayathon, fantastic result. 0.001% mortality rate. That sounds really great. Tell people that 35 animals died. Sounds horrific. If you want something to sound higher, use numbers. If you want something to sound lower, use percentages. Okay? You're not lying. It's really important to be aware of this. We never ever lie to people. We rely on our authenticity and integrity. But you can frame things in a way, depending on the message that you need the community to hear. Reciprocity, I quite like this. So reciprocity is, I owe you something because you gave me something, all right? In America, where they do these studies, because clearly in Australia this would not work, you know how they give you a mint sometimes with your bill? Now, in America, they've showed that compared to not giving any mints, giving 1 mint on average increases tips by 4%. Giving 2 mints on average increases tips by 9.5%. If you give 1 mint, then go to walk away, and then go, oh, just for you, and give them a second mint, 23% increase in tips. People feel they owe you something. And it's subconscious. They don't even know that they feel that. But we do. So starting to think about how we use this. So in the shelter, fundraising. This is a fantastic fundraising opportunity. How many people after their big Christmas campaign send out thank you cards or a little key ring or a little chocolate? Stop. Don't do it. Firstly, there is some evidence they're actually undermining the reason that about 70% of people give, which is to feel altruistic. Give them something in return and you take that altruism away from them. Instead, midway through the year, for no reason whatsoever, hey guys, you know, we got these donated by one of our sponsors. Here's a key ring just for you. No reason. You will increase your Christmas campaign by about 40%. People feel they owe you. Vets in the clinic, when you're talking about, you know, we discount. We all discount. We can't help it. We want people to be able to do the thing we want them to. But we have this big issue of we do it and then they expect it next time. So rather than just saying, oh, and here's your bill, you know, I took some stuff off. Because we know we took some stuff off and we didn't charge them for most of the disposables we used. Start talking about, look, this is how much it is just for you because it's really important to me that you're looked after. I've done this, 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 and this. You haven't done anything different. You genuinely did those things for them. But making them know that you did it just for them, that's quite valuable and very powerful for how much they talk about your clinic. I think I have to speak faster. Aren't you working? Defaults. One of the most famous examples of using behavioural economics is how you set up a form really matters. Now, we would love to think that it doesn't, but I can promise you it does. So this is a graph of people who are signed up to be organ donors in various countries. Some big differences. Now people go, oh no, it's religious or it's cultural differences. On one side of the fence, you've got UK versus France. You've got Germany versus Austria. You've got Denmark versus Sweden. These are not big cultural differences between these countries. Does anybody know what the difference between the countries are? One's opt-in, one's opt-out. So in the blue countries, when you get your driver's license, if you don't want to be an organ donor, you have to tick a box saying so. In the yellow countries, you have to tick a box saying you do want to, or worse, you have to go into the Department of Transport afterwards to tell them. We would like to think that being an organ donor is important to us and it wouldn't have an effect how the form was designed, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you like to think that? 98% of Sweden would disagree with you. Use this. How could we use this? When we adopt animals, sending them out with a harness so that they don't go by a choker chain. Simple. When we adopt animals, the automatic option is, and you're going to puppy preschool, right? If they say no, okay, well, that's fine. When we are sending people to, their first vaccine at a vet clinic, rather than saying, and would you like a microchip with that? Just, and we're microchipping today, yes. It's a different conversation. You're not lying, you're not changing their free will. They can say no to you. But they may not, because a lot of us won't. Loss aversion, very quickly. It's more powerful. It's twice as hurtful to lose something as it is pleasurable to gain something. Okay, so people having to give something up is worse than the pleasure of gaining something. This could be your answer, is Trish still in the room, to your voucher problem. Really, really often used as a really good solution to, if you give something for free, people will not value it. If you give out free dog training as a local government, people don't turn up, or they turn up to one session, they don't go to the next six. Instead, we're just going to take a hold on your credit card to hold your spot. If you turn up, it's free. If you don't show, unfortunately, we'll just have to take that hold off your credit card. Now, obviously, in underserved communities, credit cards are, a problem, so you need to think of an administratively different option. But people, we used to do this, that you get your, if we've vaccinated your kitten its first vax, you'll get your second vaccine for free. But if you don't show up, we'll charge you the $30 for it, because we've got that hold on your credit card. Okay, IKEA effect. People value things they built. Who has a really crummy bookcase in their house, but they love it because they built it? Yes! So this is important in all change management programs, cannot stress it enough, but also we've used it at RSPCA Darwin. When we had really behaviourally complex dogs, we would ask volunteers, members of the community, to come in and help train them to sit. Now, they didn't really know that we were also training them to sit all the time. They thought that they were training them to sit. Frankly, a lot of them sucked at it. The dog would never have learnt to sit. But 3 weeks later, when we've got this fantastic dog, they built that. They helped build that. And if they can't adopt it, by God, they will find you someone who will. Let people help you build things. Okay? Challenging people's status and values. This is a really helpful one for, I've seen this done badly. I've seen one of these. I obviously look at a lot of dog things, and I've seen somebody that made me tick for, do I want to sign up for their newsletter? And I wanted to say no, and I had to click the button that said, no, I don't like dogs. Now, I'm boring. That's a little bit hard to make myself click. That kind of hurts my ego a little bit. But challenging, I don't like dogs, making me hit that button, that hurt my values. That undermined everything I think about myself. And that pissed me off. I did not sign up for their newsletter. So this is a really important thing to remember when you're talking about, if you're trying to change someone's mind about desexing their dog and they're not doing it because they believe in male masculinity. Just telling them that it doesn't matter if you've got balls is not the right approach. You have undermined what they believe to be true, okay? If you're talking as a veterinarian, somebody comes in and says, oh yeah, I'm feeding my dog raw diet. And you go, oh my God, I want to kill you. Turning around and saying, no, that's wrong. Chances are that person also eats raw diet. They probably find it really important to themselves. Instead, you could turn around and go, oh, wow, you must love your dog. I just can't find the time or the budget to pay for raw food. And now you've got them feeling great about themselves and how much they love their dog, and they're going to be open to your conversation about a good nutritional diet for their dog. If the first thing out of your mouth is, that's bad, everything after that, nah, not listening. Social norms, last one, I promise, I'm being hurried. This is your second most important one, okay? So scarcity and social norms, cannot stress to you. Use it all the time. People want to be like people who they like and people who are like them. It's really, really powerful. We don't want to believe it. We want to think we're individuals, but frankly, we are not, okay? So whenever you can, make people feel like this is what the crowd is doing. If you're trying to fundraise, on average, people like you give X amount. Matters, okay? When you're trying to get people to desex, stop talking about how many undesexed dogs there are in the community. Start talking about 90% of your neighbours have done this. We need to be really careful that we're not using it backwards, okay? This does also work against us. If we start talking about that there were 12,000 complaints of cruelty last year, people think cruelty is normal. Use it carefully. Very, very last thing, ethics, okay? We need to be a little bit careful. Some of this stuff, if used badly, borders on being ever so slightly unethical, okay? We need to be careful about the line between persuasion and manipulation. If in doubt, we have to, as shelters and rescues, we have to make sure that the community trusts us and believes in our integrity. Be open and be transparent and do not take away anyone's free will. All right? I'm being hurried. Bye.